One of the things that's of interest to the believer is how does God, how does He define me? Well, I'm an adopted child. I'm a servant. I'm a steward. I'm an ambassador in the kingdom, and so on. We have all kinds of descriptive words that define who we are. I'd like to focus on just one, a steward. Well, what is a steward? Well, let me answer that question, what is a steward, by looking at a portion of Scripture in Luke chapter 12, and we're looking at verses 42 through 47. And these verses read thusly, "Who then is the faithful and wise manager, whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them their food allowance at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. I tell you the truth, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose the servant says to himself, 'My master is taking a long time in coming,' and he then begins to beat the men servants and the maid servants, and to eat and drink and get drunk. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he's not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers." Now that word servant can also be translated steward. But what precisely is a steward? Well, let's look at the storyline that comes out of Luke 12. A master, that is a farm owner, a vineyard owner, somebody has land and employs servants to do the work on that farm, is taking his leave. He's going to a far country, perhaps. He looks at his head steward or servant, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to be away for a time, not sure when I'm coming back. I will be back. I'm putting you in charge of my whole farm, my ranch, my agricultural operation here. I want you to take care of the other employees, make sure they're well fed, look after their health, make sure you do the planting and taking care of my cows and sheep and so on. I will be back and I will hold you accountable. So here's everything you need to make your job work. See you soon." The master takes off. Now, the steward is responsible to take care of those employees and the animals and the grain that's being raised on that farm. He doesn't own the grain. He doesn't own the employees. He doesn't own anything. It's all owned by the master. So then what by definition is a steward? Well, he's one who has been charged by the owner of property to take care of the property for the owner. And as a steward, he will be responsible to answer for how well he did that job. Now, it turns out every one of us is a steward. We're responsible for many things. If I have any material wealth, who owns it? Well, in truth, only God owns it. If I have savings, money, who owns that? God does. Well, how do I decide how it's to be used? Well, it's real easy just to make a decision to use it any way I wish to use it. But a steward doesn't do that, not a responsible one. A responsible steward will say to himself, "Whoa, this isn't my money. How would the master want me to use it?" So let's take a look at this thing of stewardship just for a moment. We're all stewards at some level. If we're a parent, we're stewards over our children. If we're a spouse, we have stewardship responsibilities toward our spouse. Now notice that the children or the spouse are not owned by me or you. They're God's property. In fact, it says clearly in Scripture, every servant stands or falls before his own master. My wife is not my property. My children are not my property. But my money, my material wealth is not. They're all owned by my master, Jesus Christ. But let's focus in for a moment. What's the most important and valuable piece or asset of property that belongs to my master that is well connected with me? Well, it turns out it's me. Now, this is interesting because God has made me a steward of this most valuable possession that relates to me. He owns it, but it's valuable to me. It's me. I am the steward by definition, of me. So, okay, big deal, you say. Yeah, I understand that. But do we? Do we really understand what it means to steward ourselves? Well, first off, if I'm the steward of myself, I don't own myself. Well, that's fairly clear in Scriptures. We're bought with a price. We're not our own, Paul says. So God owns me, but he's put me in charge of me. Now, if I'm in charge of me, but I don't own me, that implies I need to be asking questions of the one who owns me. Hey, Master, how do you want me to steward me? How do you want me to take care of me? How do you want me to encourage myself in the ways of righteousness? In other words, it puts me in the very advantageous position of representing the Master in how I comport myself daily as one who belongs to another. Well, let's check this out. The problem with me and you is that we have a fallen nature, and we kind of think that we're the master of our own destiny. We kind of think we own ourselves. We kind of think we're autonomous and that actually we have a right to make our own decisions. Well, there's a sense in which we do. But that's not clear thinking. Because someday I'm going to answer for how I stewarded myself, as well as others. So how does that make me think about my daily routine? Well, first of all, if I'm thinking that I'm in charge of myself and I'm the master of my own destiny, I probably am not going to appeal to any other authority. With time, I'll just begin to think, hey, I'm the authority itself. I'm the authority. I decide. After all, I have rights. I'm me. I get to decide what I'm going to do. I have rights and I'm going to pursue those. Well, that is bad thinking. But if I think, no, I belong to God, how does he want me to steward my thoughts, my speech, my actions? Now I find great freedom and liberty. It looks like being autonomous and a master of my own destiny is real freedom. That's what the world offers. Turns out it's absolute bondage. Only when I see myself as a steward of another person's property am I free. And free to do what? To enjoy the other person's property. I'm free to enjoy me in a healthy, righteous sort of way. I'm free to enjoy the one who owns me, God. In other words, I have the ultimate freedom, which I'm going to enjoy in eternity forever. Why not enjoy it now, as we think of ourselves as stewards of another person's property, and that stewardship is me. God bless you.